3 true horror stories that happened at 3 a.m. Welcome to Midnight Whispers Horror Stories. 3 a.m. There is something about that specific hour that has haunted human beings across every culture, every continent, every generation. Scientists call it a disruption in your circadian rhythm. Theologians call it the inverse of 3 p.m., the hour Christ was said to have died. And the people in tonight's stories? They have no name for it. Because what they experienced at exactly 3 a.m. left them unable to explain it with any word they already knew. 3 people. 3 separate nights. 3 moments that began with something as ordinary as a phone buzzing on a nightstand, and ended with a realization that made them question whether they were ever truly safe in their own homes. Have you ever woken up in the dead of night and felt, before you even opened your eyes, that something was wrong? That the air in the room had shifted? That you were no longer alone? If that question makes the hair on your arms stand up right now, you're exactly where you need to be. And if stories like these are why you find yourself here at this hour, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. Because at Midnight Whispers, we don't just tell scary stories. We tell the ones that actually happened. Let's begin. Story 1, The Motion Alert. Our first story comes from a woman named Dara. A 34-year-old graphic designer living alone in a quiet neighborhood just outside Columbus, Ohio. She submitted this account to an online forum roughly 8 months ago, and it has stayed with readers ever since. Dara had installed a smart doorbell camera 6 weeks prior, not because anything had happened, but because her neighbor's car had been broken into twice that summer. She figured it was a precaution. Something to make her feel safer. On a Tuesday night in late October, Dara went to bed around 11. Nothing unusual. No sounds. No reason to worry. Then, at exactly 3 a.m., her phone lit up the entire room. A motion alert. Front door. She almost ignored it. She told herself it was probably a raccoon. Maybe a passing car triggering the sensor. She reached for the phone anyway, half asleep, eyes adjusting, and opened the live feed. The driveway was empty. But at the very edge of the camera's view, right where the streetlight stopped and the darkness began, there was a figure. Not moving. Not walking away. Not approaching. Just standing. Perfectly still. Facing the house. Facing her front door. Dara sat up in bed. She watched for 40 seconds. The figure did not move once. She called 911. Stayed on the line. Heard the patrol car arrive on the feed before she heard it outside. By the time officers swept the property, the figure was gone. No footprints on the damp grass. No signs of anyone having been there at all. One of the officers knocked on her door to give her the all clear. And that is when Dara walked into her kitchen, and found her back door standing wide open. She had locked it before bed. She was certain of it. She had checked it twice. Whisper, to this day, nothing was reported stolen. Nothing was disturbed. Whoever, or whatever, had been standing at the edge of that driveway, had already been inside. Now I want you to think about that for a moment. The camera caught something outside. But the real threat was already through the back. If that story just made you want to go check your own locks, you are not alone. Drop a locked in the comments right now. And if you haven't subscribed yet, this is your sign. Hit that button. Because the next story doesn't happen outside your door. Whisper, it happens right on the other side of your wall. Story 2, The Whisper Through the Wall. This account was shared by a woman named Priya, a 29-year-old registered nurse working night shifts at a hospital on the north side of Chicago. She had been living in her apartment building for just under a year. The building was older. 6 floors. Narrow hallways. Walls thin enough that she could hear her neighbor's television on a quiet evening. She had never thought much of it. On a night she had off, a rare Wednesday with nowhere to be, Priya went to bed early. Around midnight. She was exhausted in the way that only people who work night shifts truly understand. She woke up at 3 a.m. Not to an alarm. Not to her phone. She woke up because of a sound. Whisper, a child's voice. Coming through the wall. Priya lay completely still and listened. The voice was soft, barely audible, like a child counting quietly. Or reciting something. She couldn't make out the words at first. But then she heard it clearly. Her name. Priya's mind immediately went to her neighbor. A 53-year-old man named Oren who had lived in the unit beside hers for years. Quiet. Polite. As far as she knew, he had no children. No regular visitors. She told herself maybe she had misheard. Maybe it was the television. Maybe she was still half dreaming. Then came the scratching. Low. Rhythmic. Against the shared wall beside her headboard. Like fingernails. Deliberate. Patient. Priya grabbed her phone and opened the voice recorder. She held it against the wall and pressed record, hands trembling, back pressed to the opposite side of the bed. She recorded for 2 full minutes. Then it stopped. Complete silence. As suddenly as it had started. She sat in that silence until sunrise. Did not sleep. Did not move to the living room. Just sat there with her back against the headboard, watching the wall. In the morning, she played back the recording. The whispering was clear. Unmistakable. But it was not a child's voice. It was low. Deliberate. Adult. And it was not saying her name. It was describing her apartment. The layout. Her furniture. Her routine. Details that no one who had never been inside, should have known. Priya reported it to building management and to police. Oren denied everything. No recording device was ever found. No explanation was ever given for how anyone could have known what they knew. She moved out within the week. And she never played that recording again. 2 stories in. 2 very different kinds of fear. One that came from outside your home. One that came from the space of inches between you and a stranger. But the final story tonight, this one is different. Because this one doesn't just make you afraid of what's out there in the dark. It makes you afraid of what grief can make you see. Or what it might fail to warn you about. Story 3, 3 hours, every single night. This last account comes from a man named Callum. 41 years old, originally from rural Tennessee. He shared this story in a lengthy post that circulated widely across several online communities focused on unexplained experiences. The post has since been removed at his request. Callum's mother passed away in August, unexpectedly, in her sleep, in the farmhouse where she had lived for over 30 years. The property sat on a long private road, surrounded by fields, with the nearest neighbor nearly a mile away. After settling her affairs, Callum began preparing the house for sale. During that process, he connected the old security system his mother had installed years back, mostly to monitor the property while he was away dealing with paperwork and estate attorneys. 3 weeks later, reviewing the footage from his laptop in a hotel room 40 minutes from the property, Callum noticed something. He almost missed it entirely. He was scanning through hours of footage. Empty porch, empty driveway, the long dark fields beyond. Nothing. Until he checked the timestamps. Every single night, without exception, the upstairs bedroom light turned on at exactly 3 a.m. Not approximately. Not around 3. Exactly. 3 hours on the timestamp. Every night for the past 3 weeks. His mother had been dead for 2 of those weeks. Callum told himself there was a rational explanation. A timer on the lamp. A power surge. A short in the wiring. Old house. Strange things happen in old houses. He drove back to the property the following morning. The lamp had no timer. No automatic function of any kind. The fuse box showed no irregularities. The electrician he called found nothing wrong with the wiring. Callum went upstairs anyway. The bedroom was exactly as his mother had left it. Bed made. Curtains drawn. A fine layer of dust on every surface, the kind that builds in a room no one has entered in weeks. He almost left. But something made him cross to th. On the inside of the glass, pressed into the dust that had settled on the inner sill. A handprint. Facing inward. As though someone had pressed their palm flat against the glass from inside the room, and leaned toward the window. Toward the dark fields outside. Callum called police. Officers searched the property. No signs of forced entry. No signs of anyone living there. Nothing taken, nothing moved. But one officer, before leaving, asked Callum a quiet question. He asked whether anyone else had a key to the property. Callum said no. Whisper, then he went home. Pulled out his mother's spare key from the kitchen drawer where she always kept it. And found the hook, empty. The key was never recovered. The light has not been explained. And Callum, who has since sold the property, says he has not slept past 2:50 a.m. a single night since. He doesn't say why. He doesn't need to. 3 nights. 3 moments when everything ordinary, a phone notification, a sound through a wall, a timestamp on old footage, cracked open into something that could not be closed again. Dara still uses her camera. But she checks the back door 3 times now. Priya still has the recording saved on an old phone she keeps in a drawer, and she has never pressed play again. And Callum? He just doesn't talk about it. So let me ask you something before you go. And I want you to really think about this. If you woke up tonight at exactly 3 a.m., and something felt wrong, would you investigate? Or would you pull the covers up and tell yourself it was nothing? And here is the harder question. What if telling yourself it was nothing, was exactly what someone was counting on? If these stories reached something in you tonight, if they made you pause, made you think, made the room feel just a little smaller, then you already know this channel is for you. Hit that like button right now. It takes 1 second, and it helps more people find these stories. Drop a comment, tell us which story stayed with you the longest. Tell us if something like this has ever happened to you or someone you know. This community is built on your stories too. Share this video with someone brave enough to watch it alone at night. You know who they are. And if you have not subscribed yet, do it now.